Hello, Walking the Ropes fans. I am Blake, and welcome to the next episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review for AEW Dynamite from Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. In today's show, we have a main event level opening contest, the conclusion to a rivalry, and the start of a new one. But before that, make sure to check out the Walking the Rope links tree for all things Walking the Ropes. And to open the show, we had Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. And this match was something special. If you haven't watched it already, you really do need to. Kenny and Bryan put their all into it. And there were crowd reactions right off the start before they even had locked up. It was absolutely insane. And once they did lock up, there was nothing stopping them. They pulled out all the stops. At one point, Bryan hit a big body drop from the top rope, and Kenny decided that he won't have that, and he responds with a Snapdragon suplex off the top rope. This was just epic, right up to the final bell. And let me tell you, the final bell, it didn't mean anything. The match didn't end. I mean, they could have gone for hours, and I mean, the match didn't end. For I believe the third time in AEW's history, it is a time limit draw. I personally love these finishes in AEW. They make it the next match between these two feel so cool whenever it does happen, and there's usually some kind of stipulation like no DQ. I don't know. Literally, there is endless amounts of possibilities for what they could do, and it'll likely be for the title between these two for the next one. That is, unless they decide to do a big group match first, because the Elite come down to jump Bryan Danielson. I apologize, as he has the label locked in on Kenny, which, I mean, it looks like he'd win. If there was another minute to the match, it looks like Bryan might have won this match. Of course, Jurassic Express, they come out to make the save along with Christian Cage. And, I mean, this could even possibly lead to another type of match between these groups. I mean, we could get another blood and guts match between them. The Elite versus, so the Elite, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, and then, let's say, Brandon Cutler versus Bryan Danielson, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, Christian Cage, and Marco Stunt. And the reason I add Marco and Cutler into this is because I'm not like 100% sure who the final member of each group would be for it. But it would be safe to say it would still be a 5-on-5 match if we were to do this. So, I mean, they have a fifth guy, and it would make sense that they would bring in their little guys as well. You know, either way, I'm so excited for this. As I said, Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega ends in a time limit draw. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 5 out of 5. You couldn't have asked for a better finish. I mean, if you're a Kenny fan, you got a really good finish. If you're a Bryan fan, you got a really good finish. If you're a pro wrestling fan, you got a hell of a match to watch. I mean, that was just fantastic from bell to bell, and I can't wait to see them go upwards of an hour. I mean, that was only a half hour, and we have already seen what seems like all they can do with each other, but who knows? And I know a match that didn't have an ending getting a perfect, yeah, it is perfect. It just sets up for more perfect storytelling. I don't care. I really don't. Up next, we had CM Punk making his way to the ring, and he says people have been telling him he should be mad. So he's tried to mean mug as he comes down to the ring, but he just can't because the fans are so electric. He goes on to talk about what Team Taz did to him, and then says that they don't want happy CM Punk around, and that makes him mad because he needed this. He needed to come back to these fans. And said that they should have finished the job putting him through the table, because obviously the table didn't quite break. And they should have killed him, is what he said, because he's coming for them, and he's going to put Hobbs to sleep at Rampage. And I'm so excited to see that match. We then get the next singles match. MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr. And this is definitely the biggest match of Pillman's career. He's defending his dad's honor and trying to make sure MJF learns who he is. And he starts out doing just that, taking it right to MJF, beating on him whenever he can, even outsmarted him a couple of times. And, you know, as much as Pillman's doing everything he can here, eventually, though, MJF is able to get going and start to show why he is one of the top heels in AEW. He's torturing Brian, slamming him around the ring, and even taking time to yell at some Orange Cassidy fans out in the stands. Pillman would try to make a comeback as best he can, going for a big dive out to the outside, but MJF grabs Julia Hart and Pillman stops so that way he doesn't end up hitting her. And then he runs out of the ring. He sends MJF back into the ring and then quickly checks on Julia. He goes up to the top rope, goes for a big dive, but MJF catches it, locks in the Salt of the Earth for the win. MJF defeats Brian Pillman Jr. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.25 out of 5. One, it was very difficult to follow Brian Pillman. Eddie. Oh my goodness. Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. Sorry, that my brain just could not figure that out. It's very difficult to follow that, so this was definitely your kind of palate cleanser match. These two did a fantastic job, and like I said, this was definitely Pillman's biggest match of his career, and they pulled it off perfectly. I mean, I wouldn't have minded seeing MJF lose here because Pillman getting a big win after everything MJF did, insulting his family and everything. That would have been really nice, but it's okay. I understand the story we're kind of going for here. MJF is being built like a tank, and it seems like the right thing to do for his character. After the match, Jericho and Hager talk about what they're going to do to American Top Team, and he says that they made a huge mistake calling out the Inner Circle. And then we get a singles match between Malachi Black and Cody Rhodes. And this is the rematch from the homecoming of AEW to Daly's Place. As well, we had Brandy Rhodes returning for the first time since she went on maternity leave with her child, with Cody. So that was very nice to see her. And Cody looks like he is ready to go. He has something to prove tonight. It is a must win for him. Cody and Malachi, they're very different styles, and you can see that from Cody trying to wrestle and Malachi just hitting big strikes. And I mean, he'll lock in submissions and everything like that, but he's more methodical than Cody. Cody, he's the heel in New York tonight as the crowd boos him and every move he does. He's trying everything in his power, even resulting to trying to hurt Black. Cody even hits the crossroads and Malachi kicks out. The one big mistake Cody made was taking his eyes off of Black. Cody goes to check on Arn after he was knocked off the ring, and Arn tells him to go back into the match and not worry about him. Cody does this, but in that time, Malachi got the black mist, similar to Muda's mist, and sprays it into Cody's eyes, and he gets the pinfall victory. Malachi Black defeats Cody Rhodes. And I mean, this was a fantastic match, and I don't think this is going to be the final between these two, but I think Black is going to win all three of their matches. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3 out of 5. It was a solid match for sure. I absolutely loved every second of it, and I mean, even if this is their final match, because Malachi is up to nothing on Cody, I think that that's just fine too. But I don't, just the way it goes, I don't think that that's the way this is ending. I think there's something else coming between Cody and Malachi. And after this, we finally get confirmed that Sammy Guevara will be challenging Miro for the TNT title next week on Dynamite. I am so excited for that. I don't know. I think Guevara might take it. I don't know. It's really interesting to see because right now, Darby, I believe, is still the longest reigning TNT champion. But I look at the TNT title personally as a title that isn't going to have a lot of long reigns. So seeing Darby with a long reign, I feel like Miro, like he hasn't had a short reign by any means, but I feel like he's due for his loss coming up. And maybe it'll be to Sammy. The Inner Circle could use some gold again. We then get a tag team match between FTR and Darby Allin and Sting. Sting and Darby, they are ready for war once again, and these two teams know what they are doing. FTR targets and isolates Sting, and it was a good idea too, as Darby comes in and is clearing house as bodies fly everywhere. He's not scared to use his body as a weapon, and he does so here, taking on both members of FTR. And the cool thing that this feud really has been doing this whole time has been bringing Tully into it with Sting. This is our really old rivalry from back in the WCW days. They're bringing it back to the forefront of this rivalry. Even though it's not the central point of it, it's a focal point of this whole rivalry that's been going on with FTR and Sting and Darby. It's just been awesome. I mean, we even see more of it here as Sting takes care of Tully, knocking him down off the apron as he was about to try and hit him with the chair, I believe. He then locks in the Scorpion Deathlock for the win as Darby hits the coffin drop on Dax on the apron. It was a very brutal shot. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. It was a solid match. I am in love with everything that they've been doing with Sting. I mean, I just can't wait to see what they do next with him. Just more of it, please. And I mean, this has been an amazing show. We've already had multiple main event level matches. That tag match could have been the main event for the show. The match between Cody and Malachi could have been the main event for the show. But next is the one that was allowed to take the show home for AEW tonight. Up next is the main event, the AEW Women's World Championship match. Dr. Britt Baker defending against Ruby Soho. These two women look ready to tear the house down, as this match is an amazing brawl showing both women's abilities and everything. Britt takes it to the outside very quick, and she hits a swinging neck breaker, and she's in control of it, and she's showing why she's in the position she is in. It really is insane to think that about a year ago, I was looking at her thinking, I don't know if she's ever going to be AEW champion, and now she's looking like one of the greatest AEW has, and it doesn't look like she's going to be letting go of that title anytime soon. She shows her heart in this match, taking everything Ruby's throwing at her, and then some. But as Britt would likely, and probably does tell you, it pays to have friends. Even though Ruby's dominated Britt for a bit of the match and taking a huge beating herself through the match like an air raid crash, absolutely nuts, Ruby eventually does succumb to the numbers game as Rebel and Jamie cause the distraction, allowing Britt to lock in the lockjaw for the win. Britt Baker defeats Ruby Soho to retain the AEW Women's World Championship. This is a really cool match. The way it ends, it sets up for a potential for a rematch between these two, but I wouldn't be surprised if Britt just moves on to, say, Jade. Jade Cargill has been being built as a very credible threat for the women's division, and I would not be surprised if she's eyeing the women's title. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 4.25 out of 5. It was a fantastic match, and I really don't think AEW can up their level, but they seem to do it every single week. It was an incredible show. AEW killed it once again, and Rampage is going to keep the party going. AEW, in my opinion, and quite a few other people's opinions, it seems like, is taking over the pro wrestling world, and there isn't a damn thing WWE can do about it. For my overall, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was a fantastic show. For my match of the night, it goes to Kenny versus Bryan. We are going to get this match again, and this was just the stepping stone of this match. For my segment of the night, it's CM Punk calling out Hobbs. I mean, it brings some heat, some more heat to this Friday night that's coming up. I am so pumped for Rampage. And my performers of the night, Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. I mean, these two just went at it and had an absolute war. Like I said, you put this match anywhere on the card, it's main event. I don't care. It is the main event. I mean, Britt and Ruby were the real main event, obviously, but this is a main event, even anywhere in the world today. I am so happy with AEW to the point where I punch my own mic. But that is all for this episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review. Thank you all for dropping in. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications whenever we upload a video. And I will see you in the next one.